Hello, and welcome to The Season, the podcast from FYCit that goes behind the scenes of award season. I'm your host, Ryland Aldrich, creator of the FYCit app. We're coming to you a day early this week so you can enjoy your Thanksgiving, whether that means turkey with family and friends or sneaking out to some of the numerous FYC screenings happening this weekend. This week, I'm excited to share a conversation with Jason Deadrich, CEO of Vision Media. Vision Media is at the forefront of awards tech, and Jason and I had a great discussion about the evolution of screener distribution and how technology is shaping awards campaigns. It's a fascinating look at the nuts and bolts of award season, so stick around for that. But first, let's get into this week's headlines from around the award circuit. The Hollywood Music and Media Awards took place last week, with Hans Zimmer and Emilia Perez leading the pack, each earning 3 trophies. Interestingly, Zimmer took awards for 3 different projects, including Dune Part 2, Planet Earth 3, and The Tattooist of Auschwitz. Other winners include Diane Warren, Elton John, A.R. Rahman, and Miley Cyrus. The Wild Robot and its composer Chris Bowers were also winners, taking home both Best Score and Song for an Animated Film. The IDA Documentary Awards announced their nominees, with Sugarcane leading the way with 5 noms and Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat close behind with 4. Don Porter will receive the Career Achievement Award when the ceremony is held on December 5th. In other honors news, Zendaya will receive the Spotlight Tribute at the Gotham Awards for her performance in Challengers, joining fellow honorees Timothée Chalamet and James Mangold, who will receive the Visionary Tribute for their work on A Complete Unknown. The Gothams also announced tributes for The Piano Lesson and Sing Sing as we approach the December 2nd ceremony. It was announced Viola Davis will be honored with the Cecil B. DeMille Award at the Golden Globes, while Kevin Costner and Denis Villeneuve were announced as recipients of major honors for the Motion Picture Sound Editors and Cinema Audio Society, respectively. In old folks news, the AARP Movies for Grown-Up Awards unveiled their nominees, with Conclave and A Complete Unknown leading the way. Glenn Close will receive AARP's Career Achievement Award. Finally, the Academy has released the eligibility list for the Best Animated Feature, Documentary Feature, and Best International Films for the 97th Oscars. Over 30 animated films, 169 documentaries, and entries from 85 countries are in the running, with shortlists set to be announced on December 17th. In screenings news, 5 films had their first FYC screenings added this week. These include Disney's Moana 2, the animated Netflix features Spellbound and Ultraman Rising, Sony Pictures Classics The Outrun, and Warner Bros. Juror No. 2. Leading the way with the most screenings added overall was newcomer The Outrun, which saw 19 events added to the calendar. A bit further back was Paramount's Gladiator 2 with 8 screenings, and Netflix's Emilia Perez and The Piano Lesson, each adding 7. Screenings are being added to the FYCit app daily, so make sure to check for updates. If you're an awards voter and not yet using FYCit, or if you know someone who would find it useful, head over to fycit.app to download the app for free and stay on top of all the latest events. Now let's get to my conversation with Jason Deadrich. Today's guest is Jason Deadrich, CEO of Vision Media, a company at the forefront of secure digital media distribution and marketing for Hollywood studios and entertainment guilds. With over 15 years of experience in cloud-based media management, including as co-founder of Fordella, Jason has helped Vision evolve from a traditional mailing house to a leader in digital screener distribution through platforms like Screener Passport. We're excited to discuss his role in transforming how content reaches voters, the evolution of screeners, and his vision for the future. So Jason, how's your season?
It's doing fantastic, Ryland. Thank you for having us. The season's definitely here, that's for sure.
So Vision Media began as a mailing house, sending out physical screeners, scripts, and other promotional materials. Can you walk us through the origins of mailing houses like Vision in Hollywood and how the early foundation laid the groundwork for what Vision has become today?
Yeah, sure. Look, Vision Media has been in the Hollywood industry for 30 plus years. When I joined the organization, my technology startup was acquired in 2016. Prior to that, we would hear stories and lore about how the founder used to ride his bike around Los Angeles delivering scripts by hand, and how that evolved into a full-fledged mailing house or fulfillment house. It turned into a business of warehouses and traditional 3PLs. You can imagine, kind of like a little mini Amazon with warehouses all throughout the country, storing all sorts of promotional materials for studios, shipping them out to movie theaters, cardboard standees, all sorts of different promotional materials staying in the warehouse.
So part of that role of Vision is being a trusted intermediary. These are the companies that maintain privacy for guilds while delivering materials for studios. I believe there are only a couple other AMPUS-approved companies that play roles like this. Can you tell us a little bit about these services and how that approval process works?
Yeah, that's correct. We gain access specifically to member lists or guild lists on behalf of the studios. That content we then work with the guild for approval and then ultimately distribute that content. So as you can imagine, there's kind of like three corners to the apex, and you've got the guild in one, you've got the studio that has the content in there, and then you have us in the third, and we kind of act as that gatekeeper. So when it comes time to promote content to AMPUS or to any other guild, the studios will reach out to us and say, hey, we need to specifically target a specific branch of AMPUS on a specific date and time for either a physical screener, a digital screener link, or some other piece of content that they need to promote, and they'll utilize us for that service.
Why is this sort of service important for the guilds as opposed to just working directly with the studios?
Well, I think that we kind of keep an air gap, obviously, in between the studios and the guilds. I mean, you can imagine guild members get a lot of content. I think we all have been faced with, whether we're part of a guild or an organization, getting a lot of DVDs, a lot of links, a lot of different kind of combination of stuff sitting on your desk. And some of that can be promotional content, and some of it may be fluff, and it may be information that, might be trying to sway a voter or trying to persuade a voter to vote a certain way. I think the guilds really rely on companies like us to help develop that content and to make sure that the content that goes to the guild members is specifically what they need to see and when they need to see it.
So we've seen a lot of changes in the way that voters watch awards content, specifically at home. The studios have been sending fewer and fewer DVDs as the technology for secure digital screeners has advanced. Your previous company, Fordello, was a trailblazer in this secure media technology. I assume Vision's acquisition of Fordello was a big part of Vision pivoting to this new screener world. Tell us about that evolution a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned, in 2016, when Fordello was acquired, we came into a traditional physical distribution world where, people thought about companies like ours as mailing houses where we would ship physical items around the country, around the world on behalf of the studios. At the time, the owner of the organization saw that, physical wasn't going to be around forever, and we needed to move into a digital space. At the time, I had a technology startup based out of San Francisco where we were delivering secure content on behalf of studios. And he said, this is definitely the future of the entertainment industry. People are not going to want to continue to ship DVDs. And there's numerous benefits, obviously, going digital from a DVD, starting with just the quality. You're going from an SD piece of content on a DVD to now, we're delivering 4K streams with surround sound, adaptive bitrate, audio descriptions, and so on. So the quality of the content has increased, but of course the security has as well. So I work very closely with all of the security teams of the major studios, and it's utmost important that content doesn't get into the wrong hands. I think all of us that are in the entertainment industry have been an example where you go into a break room sometimes and there's just a stack of DVDs that somebody got as a screener, and they brought them in. They said, here's free movies to watch. Well, that might benefit the individual that wants to watch the movies, but that's not necessarily the goal of the studio. And when you're dealing with early window or pre-release content, security is so important. And us moving to a fully digital age has been what's really been able to benefit the studios on behalf of security and distribution. Has
this evolution happened slower than you expected, quicker? I know the PGA this year has stopped sending out DVD screeners completely. Does this seem like about the pace you expected?
Yeah, well, same with Film Independent Spirit Awards. They also shifted to direct digital links. I think it's about on pace. Obviously, the big thing that kind of shifted was COVID. I think affected all of our industry. So, a lot of that physical shipment just kind of went away in 2021 and 2020 in lieu of digital links. And now I'm talking specifically of, promotional content even outside of award season, just the overall desire to have content digital. It means a lot more. But with digital comes, new challenges. Because now, instead of somebody receiving a box on their desk of saying, here's 17 movies that you have to watch by the deadline, now you might get 17 links. And it might say, hey, now you got to go figure out 17 different sites that you need to log into. So I do think it's a natural evolution, no different than how we went from VHS tapes to DVDs to semi-Blu-rays, and then ultimately to digital. But I do think there's additional challenges ahead.
So yeah, there are a ton of challenges in that field of screener discovery and organization. I know as a guild member, finding the screeners that you're looking for these days is truly complex. Some studios have their own screener sites that all guild members have to go to. A lot of the guilds have content on their particular guild sites for certain studios' content, and some studios do both. Can you, as best you can, paint a picture of the sort of current screener landscape?
Yeah, I can. I would imagine it's a bit of a wild, wild west. And I have a lot of empathy for the guild voter that might be a member of multiple guilds or critics groups that end up getting a lot of different links and trying to remember multiple different passwords. It's been kind of an interesting evolution, as I mentioned, on the digital side, where in 2015, 2016, Vision Media had launched a product and a website called Screener Passport. And the goal of that site was to kind of be a destination site so that a single voter could log into that site, go to a drop-down menu, identify what guild or organization they're part of, and then see the content that's available for that particular screening. And that site was very successful and became very well known as kind of Screener Passport as a destination to go to see early window or pre-release award screening content. And I think what we saw over time, and certainly the explosion of COVID helped kind of accelerate this, is a lot of the studios started investing in their own technology. A lot of other companies came along and said, hey, we want to assist in this space. We see, obviously there's a lot of opportunity. And so there was some bifurcation. We saw a lot of different kind of screener content ending up on different sites. Everything from the Vimeo and the YouTubes all the way to, the full-blown FYC sites, as you mentioned, for the studios. And so the end result, you end up with an awards voter or just an average consumer that wants to understand what's going on in the awards landscape, really, I think, being a little confused.
So just digging in a little deeper on the actual landscape of the guild sites versus studio sites, do you know how many guilds currently sort of host their own studio screener sites?
Well, certainly AMPUS was one of the leaders in the space, right? So AMPUS, a few years back, took the initiative to build out a lot of their own technology. The team there is just fantastic. I think I can't say enough about the infrastructure and the technology that they have in place. We work closely with AMPUS, obviously, to deliver promotional content, but they have built a really robust screening platform. And I think that we're going to continue to see that trend happen with other guilds, whether or not they build it in-house, if they have the resources of, say, AMPUS, or if they rely on a vendor like a Vision Media, we'll see. But I think ultimately, as we look forward to kind of the future of where this content lives, we have to stop focusing on making a voter know or relying on an end user to kind of remember a username and password and a specific site. We really want to make it as easy as possible to access this content regardless of where it's hosted.
And then the studios are hosting that content sometimes on their own voter-facing sites too. Does that happen more often then? Is more often you go to the Apple screener site or the Warner Brothers screener site or whatever, as opposed to going to your particular guild site if you're not in AMPUS?
I think it shifts a little bit, right? So, I mean, we've certainly seen some of the studio sites pop up, but then we've also heard from studios where they say, hey, we would prefer to have this outsourced. We prefer to have this on a vendor site where, they kind of don't have to worry with the headache of PIN code distribution or username lookups or COPA passwords and, kind of the complexities of voter content.
I'm curious just to kind of get to the heart of why studios or guilds prefer to build their own systems or to hire a company like Vision to kind of use their back end on their own voter facing sites. Do you think a lot of that is data, or is it really just about controlling all of the particulars?
I think data is a piece of it. I also think brand recognition is important. I think that, one of the things we do hear from guild voters is they say, where do I go to find content? Having it all in one place is important. And so for an AMPUS to be able to say, hey, we've got one destination site, you can log in and give you all Oscar-worthy content, I think it does make it easier. So I think there's an aspect of being able to track all the information behind it, obviously, where people are coming from, how often are people doing the content, but also just giving an easy to use kind of landing page for their voting members is important.
So if a studio or a guild comes to Vision and says, we want to have the Screener Passport backend powering our site so that our members or whoever, if it's the studio saying, the various guild members can come here and watch that, then do you build them sort of a custom version of that so that, and then more or less skin that for their brand?
Yeah. So our friends at Film Independent, that do the Spirit Awards, they've been utilizing our platform for multiple years now for exactly kind of what you've described. They have their own personalized branded version of Screener Passport. So all of the security benefits, all of the app support, all of the support that we provide, it's kind of wrapped up in a package specifically for Film Independent. And what was great about that is we also saw that start to extend into other types of screening opportunities. So as we start to see submissions portals and more early preview content start to pop up, we start to obviously get involved in those opportunities as well.
Can you walk us through maybe the questions that you would ask your partners when they're coming to you to say, hey, let's build something together? Do you have to get into the details of like timing and access restrictions? Are there other variables that come into play there?
Yeah, well, what we refer to as entitlements are quite often set by the studios or by the studio security teams. And so a lot of what we will do is we'll present a framework or a set of framework that's a very flexible tool set that will say, okay, first of all, how do you want people to authenticate? Do you have your own internal mechanism for authentication, like SAG, for example, where they have existing PIN codes? Or are you planning on distributing PIN codes to individual users? Will your PIN codes be one-time use PIN codes, or will they be the same PIN code for everyone? So quite commonly, you'll see a print magazine, you'll see an advertisement that actually have an FYC code in it. Well, if that FYCit code is in print, then chances are multiple people are going to be accessing that at once. And so it's very important to be able to support multi-access on a single access code or a single use code. Conversely, there's other studios that only want one access per PIN code, so you have to be able to track that. Then you also get deeper into security around, is the content early window or is it pre-release? Are there requirements around things like forensic watermarking that need to be tied into that piece of content? How many plays does the viewer need to have access to? And then, of course, what is the app support? In our early days, everything we did was on the computer, and we thought people were going to watch content on the computer. That's fully evolved to television now.
Sure.
And so our best viewing environment has always been the television set. So whether you're using an Apple TV app, a Roku app, or our new Samsung TV app, we want you to lean back, get comfortable in your television set, and be able to watch content on TV.
Yeah, you anticipated exactly where I was going next, which is that idea of watching this on your TV through a really easy to use app that's just built right into your TV platform. Where are we on that journey? Are we all the way there? Do your platforms support pretty much everything that someone might have?
Yeah, I wouldn't say we're fully there yet. I think that we're continuously pushing kind of new technology for layback screening, being able to view content off of your couch. Our company, obviously, we support all of the major TV apps and, of course, Apple TV and Roku as well. But I think that's going to continue to expand. And what I mean by that is, obviously TVs get bigger, they have more functionality, but also there's new devices that we're really intrigued by. So we're really excited about doing VR content. We've done some really cool tests around doing screening on both, Apple Vision Pro and then the Meta headsets. And we just start thinking about, well, what's the future going to look like? If we're 2, 3, 4 years out, are people going to sit down and put on a headset and kind of be on a red carpet and be able to interact with the content and interact with the talent? Because in my eyes, I think this is going to go beyond just the screening of the event itself. Because with the exception of, say, a 3D film, when you're watching content, it's a very 2D interaction. You're sitting on your couch, you're sitting in front of your computer, and you're just watching it on a 2D television set. I think the interactive nature of this is going to really shine through. And at our heart, our company is really a promotions company. We help studios promote content. And so we're always looking for what is that cool interactive way we can help studios promote their content. And if that involves, 3D interaction with content, if you're VR, if you're on the red carpet, if you're doing a Q&A session, that's where things really start to get exciting with the future of screening for me.
Yeah, that is very exciting. I like that exploration of different ways to consume that content. Linking this back to maybe the good old 20th century form of promotion, what role does email marketing play in screener distribution? Do you work with studios to effectively manage their outreach without overwhelming voters?
Yeah, absolutely. It's astonishing how important email marketing continues to be, and we love to be a supplier of email marketing because it's such a great, efficient way to get right in front of a voter, or get right in front of a viewer. So the same way we do distribution of screening links, the same way we do distribution of promotional content to, say, AMPAS voters, we will also distribute email blasts or email marketing content to those voters. So quite often a studio wants to promote a piece of content to somebody because they're doing an in-person screening, as you know, and they say, hey, come to this screening, RSVP here. Well, they're going to help, they're going to come to us and we're going to help them distribute that email marketing. So, we generally work with these teams. They deliver the creatives with us. We help massage that content. We pretty everything up and then ultimately distribute that content. And so on that side of the house, obviously, we spend a lot of time thinking about things like email reputation rates, making sure email stays out of, junk email boxes, making sure that emails delivered to the right people when they want to see it.
Yeah, that challenge of just the overflowing inbox, I know is, one of our sort of original reasons for starting FYCit when it came to the in-person screenings. Do studios talk about that issue? Do studios worry about overwhelming voters with just screener codes and things that are very like nuts and bolts parts of how you need to reach them?
Well, I'm sure they do, but I think that this goes back to the question you had asked earlier about, how do we exist in this world of kind of being that third entity? The guilds don't want that to happen, obviously. The guilds want to protect your time. Your time and attention is valuable. And so they don't want you to get overwhelmed. So it's important to kind of have a checks and balances system. So, I imagine your inbox is flooded now. I can imagine how much worse it might be if there weren't some checks and balances, but that's kind of the inherent nature of the business right now. We are, in a very busy time. The award season is exciting for all of us. And there's a lot of great movies and great content out there that people want you to see.
So there are some other companies doing similar type things with secure screening platforms. What makes Vision different from those other companies?
The $10 million question, right? I get asked that question commonly, and we're all in the technology space, and I have a lot of respect and a lot of admiration for other technology and visionaries that are all kind of building platforms similar to ours. I would say, we've been doing this for some time now, obviously, and we've got a certain level of expertise. I think the other thing that makes us fairly unique is, my background was I was originally at Lucasfilm. We have a team of members that are all come from studio backgrounds or from places like Deluxe and other post-production studios. And we inherently love this product. We love the service. And, we're part of Hollywood as much as we possibly can be. And so it's very important for us to always be thinking ahead of the curve and trying to understand kind of what does the studio need? How do we provide that kind of luxurious kind of white glove service that's going to continue to uphold our reputation as being kind of the leader in this space, but also breaking new technology grounds. And as I've mentioned, starting to do exploration on new device playback. How do you make content better? How do you make content more exciting for people? So it's not just, clicking on a link and you just watch the content on your screen. You need to really be involved and engaged with that content.
Do you think that the random voting member should care about the technology that's powering the back end of their screener website that they're watching something on?
Well, we know they do because we obviously know when it doesn't work because we'll have a voter that might be on a bandwidth restricted location and they might have problems or they might not have a device that their operating system has been updated on, and we want to assist that customer because we don't want them to have a bad experience, and so we want those people to care about who the vendor is. We want that customer to say, hey, I know this platform, I've used it before, I already have the app installed on my device, it's as trustworthy as all the other apps that are on my device. When I click on, my Netflix button or my Hulu button on my phone, I'm pretty assured I'm going to get a good experience about it because, they're tried and true. They're really good tools. They're things that work. And we want to build that same brand. We want to continue that great reputation where people know that Vision Media and Screener Passport are going to provide great tools to them.
You mentioned Screener Passport. I understand Vision is working on a relaunch of this with a more voter-facing website. Can you tell us how that's different?
So we took a slightly different path and slightly different directions this year with Screener Passport. So instead of relying on the voter to kind of know what's in their inbox and be able to track down emails and be able to say, okay, well, did I get a link to that particular piece of content? Where do I find it? How do I know where to watch it? We've evolved Screener Passport to really encompass all awards activities. So we're really excited to announce that, this year when you go to screenerpassport.com, you can log in, you can access content, and you can view content across multiple different platforms. So we've really tried to just peel back the layers and say, hey, let's make it super easy for anyone to be able to see where content is, no matter where it's located, if it's on Netflix or if it's on another site or if it's on Vimeo, et cetera. We're going to at least have links to that and just try and make it a little bit easier to kind of navigate that landscape. And so for us having one location where we can all go and just see nominated titles means a lot. And we've partnered with our friends over at Awards Watch on the site. So we're also bringing in content and awards news about each one of the titles or about each one of the guilds or associations they're putting on the event. So pretty exciting times for us.
So the relaunch of Screener Passport is really focused on helping the voter find the content they're looking for, whether it's on one of your platforms or not. What are the challenges that you face in trying to take that whole screener landscape and put it into one place?
Yeah, and I would just expand on that. And I'd say, we're really trying to help really just any movie fan. So it goes beyond voters. Obviously, voters are very important, and they're a very important part of the ecosystem right now because they're VIP, their priority. We want to make sure they get access to content. But there's a lot of people out there that just love movies, and they want to see what's been nominated this year, and they don't want to just see kind of what they hear in the news or what's been nominated for Oscars. They might want to know about a below the line guild, for example. Like let's understand kind of the level of detail that go into the awards industry. So we've tried to open it up beyond just voters into consumers as well, and that's why by adding traditional VOD sites into Screener Passport. So if you don't have access, say, to a voting guild site, but that movie just happens to live on, say, Amazon Prime or Hulu, then you can get access it to there as well. So think about this as really just a curated collection, with some editorial around it, with some news items, just to kind of get people excited and say, okay, look who's coming this award season.
Can you walk us through the end user experience when they go to screenerpassport.com?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you hit screenerpassport.com, the big difference that's going to happen this year as opposed to last year or previous years is you don't have to log in now. So you're going to be able to get instantly into a page. It's going to list a number of studios. It's going to show studios that have participating FYC sites. So these are dedicated for your consideration sites that the studios have built. And then you're going to get a list of guilds, both above the line and below the line guilds. You can click into either one of those sections. If you go into the FYC studio section, you'll see a list of all titles that each studio has up for your consideration, along with what the FYC categories are. And then it will give you chances to link out and watch that piece of content. So, for example, you can go into, the Warner Brothers FYC site. If you're interested in Dune 2, they'll give you a link where all the different areas you can watch Dune 2 are, along with additional kind of promotional and metadata. So Rotten Tomatoes scores, IMDb scores, cast and crew information. Really just a great portal for all the information around that title. Conversely, if you want to go into the guild section, you can click on, say, Oscars, and it will give you a list. Once the nominations have come out, it will give you a list of all the nominating categories and what the titles are available in those categories. So if you're just interested in Best Actor, you can go into the Best Actor section and click on each title and be able to kind of understand and be able to watch all of the content in the Best Actor section.
Yeah, it sounds like a very valuable tool. I assume you'll let me know if you're going to start listing screenings though, right?
Absolutely. I know somebody in the industry that might be very interested in that. Yeah, we're excited because what you're touching on right now is the evolution of that site. So you can imagine when we sat down earlier on this year and we were thinking about what Screener Passport was going to look like this year, we were also thinking about what it's going to look like, in the next season as we get into TV screenings and then ultimately the 2025 season.
I think it's particularly interesting to the non-guild member interested in all of what you say there, if interested in knowing how to find out more information, even if they're not yet a guild member or not yet a voter, to be able to go there, see those nominees, and immediately get to see how they watch that on one of those 17 different pay SVOD sites that they're probably already subscribed to. So that seems like that could be a particularly valuable area to explore there.
Yeah, and that's what we're really hoping for because the promotional world or the awards content is just so vast, and there's so many people that are interested in it. And sometimes, I feel like you and we're all very close to it, and we kind of live and breathe it. And that passion and that kind of excitement around award season, it circulates to other people as well. It's like I know my family and friends are always asking me, they say, "Oh, where do I go watch the best movie?" And they come to me because they think somehow I know exactly every single movie that's up for every single award. And it just, it became a head scratcher for me. It said, yeah, we should know that, and we should have that access, and we should be able to point them to a site where they can go watch it. So, inclusion is important for us. We don't want to make this just for any one single group or any one single platform.
I don't know if you can answer this, but what is the sort of takeaway for Vision with a project like this? There's, obviously directing more traffic through your front end helps with the brand and seeing, user behavior. But is there a bigger picture here on how this helps Vision have a larger role in the digital secure screener space?
Yeah, sure. And I guess, to kind of answer that, I'll just kind of describe kind of obviously where we came from. And I kind of skipped over, several years earlier on in the story. So earlier this year, we fully separated from the physical fulfillment mailing house business and became a pure digital play. And it's allowed us to be able to say, okay, well, now let's really focus on the digital world. Let's understand, if we're going to build these technologies, if we're going to do some exciting things, how is that going to evolve? And of course, when we look into 2025 and we start start thinking about, as I touched on earlier, like different ways of viewing content and, pulling that data out of the system and saying, okay, well, it looks like 90% of the people are watching on television sets that are 42 inches or larger. These are going to be very interesting data points for us to share with the studios and for us to be able to share with people and be able to circulate back into the industry. But it's also useful to see kind of when you get to the award season, what's happening, because there's different types of playback activity that we see. And a good example of that I always share with people is, there's going to be a nomination date when content becomes available, and a lot of people are going to get links, and that content might expire in 30 days or might expire in 45 days or when the voting closes. But the actual busiest time for that content to be consumed is usually the day before voting closes. Suddenly you get this big upsurge in all sorts of people accessing content, and that's when you get a lot of your interesting data.
What gaps still exist in the awards tech field? How do you envision the process evolving to better support voters in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the submission process is obviously something where we're seeing a lot of interest. We work with Film Independence Power, their submissions portal. Obviously, there's a lot of tools out there. The team at Coverfly have some really interesting submissions tools. Obviously, there's things like Submittable. Google has their own submissions platform. But we're seeing, obviously, the screener content window or the screener award season window growing, and we're seeing it growing more at the beginning end of the season, right? So we're saying, okay, well, how do these nominations get into the system? How do voting committees start to see content? How do they consume content? Because you're seeing, upwards of 1,000 pieces of content that get shipped to a guild, and that guild needs to kind of cipher through that information. And it's not just the video itself. It's the video. It's all the information about the movie. It's the metadata. There might be a payment associated in order to get that piece of content into their network or get that content available for them. So I think that we're seeing some very, very interesting opportunities around that. And then, as I mentioned, I think also tying in more promotional content. So, we work with the Hollywood Reporter. We power the Hollywood Reporter Presents, and they've got a great product where, they'll have the screening event, but they will also tie it in with a QA session. And so they'll have a cast and crew information. So there'll be more data that kind of comes with the movie. And I'm just such a big proponent of bringing more information around the title. To me, a movie doesn't start and stop at, the hour and a half mark. It's a much longer experience. I think people need to get further engaged with that title and do more kind of experimental work.
Do you foresee some of those other emerging technologies like AI and blockchain entering the awards landscape anytime soon?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've done considerable work with blockchain smart contracts and just trying to understand, how we can benefit from those, how we can pass that benefit on to our studio partners. AI is obviously certainly an interesting one, especially when it comes to metadata. So, making it so that it's easy for a consumer to find content requires the person that's submitting the content to put that information into the platform. And so if you're asking somebody to upload a whole series of metadata about cast and crew information or different scenery or different types of details around the movie, that's where AI can really come in. And so you think about, we'll talk about another sector of this space. We'll talk about kind of the awards consultants or the awards executives that work for the studio. Their plates are full too, because they're managing, they're trying to manage in-person screening events. They're trying to manage, putting billboards up on Sunset Avenue. They're trying to manage, shipping out kits in some cases, different people, and trying to get videos out onto these screening platforms. And so, all of this different data, how it originates in different spaces, we want to make it as easy as possible for those awards teams when they are submitting content to our platform, for example, to say, hey, we're going to make it easy for the end user to be able to consume content. And that's all going to be through kind of this AI algorithm where we're going to extract data about the movie.
Yeah, I can see that really coming into play, especially when it comes to things like how you schedule your in-person screenings and, looking at the different strategies that I get a sort of front row seat to, seeing how data can come into play to really help studios and overworked awards executives figure out the best path forward to reach the voters.
Yeah, because that's at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, right? I mean, like these award executives and the consultants as well. I mean, they obviously want to bring attention to their titles, but they need to make informed decisions about it. And companies like yours, like mine, like others, we're gathering data that can help empower those decisions, and we can help them make smarter decisions about, how should they be spending their budget? Where do they need to be investing their time and resources?
Right. That's great, Jason. Thank you. We end all of our interviews with a lightning round of questions, just some quick questions with some quick answers. Are you down for that?
Oh, of course.
All right. What is your favorite award show to attend?
The Spirit Awards. Film Independent just has a different vibe. It has a different, experience to be a part of. And obviously being on the beach in Santa Monica, you can't beat that. So certainly Spirit Awards.
What is your favorite film festival to attend?
Film festival would probably need to be Sundance. being a Utah boy and growing up in Salt Lake City, long before I even got into the industry, I remember driving up the Provo Canyon, heading towards Sundance with my parents, and be like, "Oh, that's where Robert Redford lives, and that's where the magic happens." And so I was indoctrinated into that kind of Sundance Film Festival world very, very young, long before I was even old enough to get onto the property. And so being able to go back to that now as an adult and be able to kind of do what I used to drive by with my family and have that experience means a lot.
Do you prefer Emmy season or Oscar season?
Ooh, tough one. I think Oscar season, quite honestly. I think when it comes to Oscar season, it's the big one.
Do you have a post-award season ritual?
We should, but post-award season turns into Emmy season, right? No post-award season. And honestly, like, I hope there never becomes one, because I want this to be a year-round, industry for all of us. I mean, this is what we live and breathe. We love it.
What is your favorite past appetizer at a screening reception?
I feel like I had a really good crab ragoon recently. And I remember every time it came by, I grabbed one, and it got to the point where, like, I was getting sick of them, but that was the only tray that I kept seeing. So I don't know if it's my favorite or if it's just the thing that's stuck in my head right now. Is I'm like, okay, I ate a lot of crab ragoons at this event, probably more than I should have.
Would you be more likely to cry or swear during an acceptance speech?
Oh, probably cry and swear. I probably, like, if I got up there, it would be hard holding back tears, certainly on an acceptance, but I might accidentally let in a customer. I'd be have to be careful about that.
This is a good one for you. Do you prefer to watch FYC screenings at home or in the theater?
At home. At home. We could probably have an entirely different podcast about this. And I know people have pretty strong feelings about this, but the in-theater experience sometimes is not ideal if you're trying to watch content for content's sake. So definitely at home in a controlled environment.
At an award show, do you prefer theater or table seating?
Table, definitely table, because if the movie is not to your liking, there's easier ways to fidget around and look at other things on the table that can pass the time.
All right, final question. What is one unreasonably early award season prediction that you're willing to make?
Oh my gosh. You caught me on that one. I am unprepared to answer that question. I'm sorry. Because it's too early. It's way, way, way too early. Ask me that question in 3 weeks.
Jason Deadrich, thank you so much for being on the season. Great having a chat with you about all the awards tech and everything that's happening in the industry. So thank you.
Ryland, you've been the best. Thank you for your friendship and your partnership, and I'm happy to support you guys in any way I can.
We're back, and I'm here with our FYCit field agent, Tony Miros, our self-described FYC event junkie. Tony, how's it going? What'd you get up to this week?
Hey, Ryland. Well, it was not as crazy as my 2 weeks before. It was a good week, though. I actually got to go to a premiere, which I love to do those, at the Egyptian Theater, which, has been rechristened as like the new old movie palace that Netflix now owns. But it was for the piano lesson. I know that it was at Telluride this year. It premiered there, and it's an August Wilson play from 1987. It was actually quite interesting to me because it was like a family affair, right? The director, who is Malcolm Washington, and the star, John David Washington, is Denzel Washington's sons. And so Denzel was there, and his wife was there, and everybody, all the Washingtons were there. It was a star-studded Washington night. But it was great because, they had that big red carpet, and they had the actual piano that they used in the film. It's actually really interesting. It's a great watch if you want to see something that's serious. And boy, I have to say, Danielle Deadwyler, who was in Till 2 years ago, she's tremendous. She needs to get some recognition because her performances in all her films have been just outstanding. So, I love the piano lesson. I thought it was a good film. And then the premiere, which, I love to have the lights in the sky and the reporters outside. And it was really a fantastic evening in Hollywood.
So I haven't been to the Egyptian since Netflix took it over. Obviously, the courtyard is probably all the same. What about on the inside? Have they made upgrades to that? Because last time I was there, it was showing a little bit of age.
Yeah, I mean, they did. Actually, they gutted the whole building pretty much. And there used to be a smaller theater underneath the main theater, which I don't think it exists anymore. Maybe they're using it for something else, but you don't have access to underneath anymore. And then the lobby area they completely redid it, and they have photographs and things from the history of the theater there. So even when you enter, you see all the premieres that ever happened at the Egyptian theater from the very first. By the way, and nobody knows this, the Egyptian was built before the Chinese theater. So the very first movie premiere happened at the Egyptian theater. Yeah. And so they have all this information in the lobby that you can see, but it's beautiful. They redid everything, and the seating is much better. Ooh, you remember in the Egyptian, the old one, where you would get to like the first 5 rows and then they would swoop up like it was like you were looking up into the ceiling? That no longer happens. I think they dug down a bit so that everything is level, so you don't feel like you're on a ship sometimes.
How was the premiere spread? Did they have themed snacks from Piano Lesson?
They don't, but what they do give you is they give the wonderful popcorn. They actually make really good popcorn. Now that I'm going to these other movie theaters, I'm now comparing popcorns. And so I have to say, the popcorn at the Egyptian is really good, and they always have like a nice, pretty box of whatever movie you're going to see, like because it's Netflix, so it's advertising. So I got a nice big box of popcorn that said the Piano Lesson on it, and they give you free sodas. So, you go in there, oh, good, I get popcorn and a soda. Hey, well, at least it's something.
What else did you get up to?
And then I just saw this lovely film. I know it's been out for a while, but I had not heard about it, had not seen it. It's called Thelma, and it stars June Squibb. And, June Squibb has been in 1,000 other films, but she's never starred. She's never been the number one on the call sheet. She's 95 years old, Ryland, and this lady is an action star now, and I loved it from beginning to end. I had the best time, and the good thing about the screening, it was at the Harmony Gold, and there was a wonderful Q&A with June and Josh Margolin, who is the writer, director, editor of the film. The producers were there, and the cinematographer, as well as the casting director and the stunt coordinator. And so it was very interesting to hear all of their things. And the stunt coordinator was so funny because June had a stunt double, because she was on the moped through the city. And she's like, yeah, they wanted me to get off to like do this crash scene with Richard Roundtree. And I just wanted to do it. So she just crashed in, and Richard Roundtree had no idea she was going to do it. She's like, yeah, I just felt I had to do it. But it's such, I don't know if you saw Thelma, but I highly recommend it.
That's great. So, Tony, I've heard some rumors flying around the awards circuit. Is it true that the season is heading out on the road? Our FYCit field agent is headed to the Big Apple to check out the FYC screening scene in New York?
Ryland, I've been in Los Angeles for 20 years. I've gone and done everything that can be done here for FYC. So I'm going to go to New York. Yes, the Big Apple, to try and see what it's like. What's the difference? Oh my goodness, I can't wait. So yeah, I'm going to be there for a couple of months, and I'm going to tell you everything that happens in the Big Apple and during FYC season. So I'm looking forward to it.
One thing I've noticed just from looking at the listings on a week-to-week basis, day-to-day basis, is that there are fewer big venues. So there's a lot more happens at the same maybe dozen or a couple dozen screening rooms. So I'll be interested to see if you end up headed to the same place over and over again.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm going to the Park Avenue screening room at least 4 times in the next month. So.
Yep.
Like, okay, well, but the DGA is on West 57th, which is like 3 blocks from where I'm going to be staying. So it'll be, and you know what? I think it's going to have a different feel. I think even the people who go to these things are going to have, this is going to be an adventure, and I'm going to take you guys with me.
Well, we're looking forward to hearing how the popcorn stacks up against all the popcorn in Los Angeles. So have a very safe trip. Thank you so much to Tony Miros, our FYCit field agent. Safe travels and happy Thanksgiving, Tony. And thank you, of course, to Jason Deadrich. And an extra special, huge thanks to you, our listeners. A very happy Thanksgiving to you all. We'd love to hear what you think of the season. You can leave us a review on your podcast app or drop us a line at podcast@fycit.app. If you enjoyed today's episode, please tell a friend. And don't forget to follow us on social media at FYCit app. You can also visit FYCit.app to sign up for our newsletter, download the FYCit app, and stay up to date on everything happening this award season. Thank you again for listening. Join us next week for another episode of The Season as we dive deeper into the stories behind the awards. Until then, remember, at FYCit, award season starts here.